Good morning. I want to welcome those of you who are watching by way of the internet. This is Stephen York, the pastor of the Stonington United Methodist Church in Stonington, Maine. And this morning I'm preaching to you on the subject, the importance of eating together. Our reading this morning from the Gospel of John, the 21st chapter, was a story that occurs after the resurrection of Jesus. There are many interesting elements to it. Surprise, the lack of recognition of who it was that was on the beach when these fishermen were called in. The fact that the disciples had actually gone back with the idea of being in the fishing business after Jesus' death and resurrection. And so they're out trying to catch fish and nothing is happening. And then they hear a voice saying, "Come and eat." There was an old gospel song that my grandmother insisted that we sing almost at every mealtime before we came and ate dinner, particularly when it was a church dinner or a church picnic, which was pretty frequently. And the title of that gospel song was "Come and Dine." Come and dine, the Master calleth, come and dine. You may feast at Jesus' table all the time. He who fed the multitude turned the water into wine. To the hungry calleth now, come and dine. And we would sing that with vigor because frankly we want to get through that in the rather lengthy prayer that would follow so that we could actually get down to Grandma's homemade beans and other wonderful things that people brought in those days. But the memory of meals together, both as a family and as a community within a church, stay with me these many years later. I have noticed and observed with some concern that the scene that I saw with Catherine on Saturday morning is commonplace in our culture. Families are wired and they are all engaged, even now in restaurants, in interacting with some virtual reality on the internet. And while they are physically present, there is, in the words of Gertrude Stein, no there. Everybody is doing their own thing. The irony of it is that being online is called being connected. But as I observe more and more in the travels that we take week after week throughout the state, there are people who are increasingly disconnected from each other. Catherine and I found a wonderful natural food place in Scarborough. And when you're on the road all the time, you get to know the area. And since she and I have taken seriously Michael Pollan's book, Food Rules, and things that Wendell Berry has talked about with agriculture, and having personally seen Food Inc., the movie, I'm more particular these days in what I'm eating, and so is Catherine. And so we went to the desk at the hotel where we always stay in Saco, and we said, "Isn't there a place where we can get some natural food for lunch?" And she thought for a moment and directed us, and it took about 15 minutes to get there, and it was wonderful. The food, it was a store, it was a vitamin place, you had a couple of chefs cooking with organic food, and it was just a marvelous experience. So we sat there in the little small deli area and ate our meals, and I had some sort of salad and Thai chicken, free range, etc., in my meal, and Catherine had some wonderful soup that she's yet to stop praising. So Catherine decided she wanted to go and kind of peruse around the store, and I was still eating a salad. And so she did, and I began listening to the chef who was working behind the counter. And I heard him tell his colleague a story about his little children, one of whom was a 6-year-old, I think, boy, who was all excited that down the street from them, some new little girls had come in to the neighborhood, some family, and so this was the story I overheard. He said to the other chef, "My little 6-year-old came home one night, and at family dinner table, he announced to us that he and the little girl, whom he named, were going to be married. And that she, against his preference, insisted that they be married in her backyard." And they were chuckling and thinking about it. And I sat there touched. Because, first of all, it's a story that is told from a dinner table where the parents are engaged with these young children. I was further impressed that the children in that family and down the street were all playing outdoors, which is another phenomenon in our culture. And I thought about the family that I had observed at breakfast that were all connected to everything in its mother with technology. And then I thought of the story and the creative imagination of these little 6-year-olds who've already planned their nuptials by playing outdoors and creative imagination. Jesus, in the gospel story this morning, after his resurrection, meets his disciples on the shore of the Sea of Galilee and has a meal with them. If you looked at all of the times in the Gospels that Jesus ate with people, it is remarkable how many times the stories are told over and over of Jesus at dinner parties, Jesus with friends, Jesus eating with people who were not on the social list, Jesus spending time in meals.